Hey guys, it's Jason here from Head First. This is a Marshall 2959. It's the second one I've had in recent times. They're very rare, maybe 150 made. I posted a video on one of these a couple of weeks back. Do check it out. This one belongs to Leon Todd. Leon is here in Australia. He's in Perth. It's the other side of the country. Leon's a good mate of mine. And he sent me this. He just picked it up like maybe 3 weeks ago on the second-hand market. It's been modded before, so it had kind of been modded into basically a 1959 spec super lead. But as we will see in this video, not all as it would seem. There was some weird stuff going on in that amp, but he sent me this to see if we can kind of turn it into something slightly more hot-rodded than a 1959 super lead, still retaining that essence of the plexi goodness, but give it some more kind of hot-rodded features, right? And that's what we have done. So I'm going to take you through that in this video. We're going to listen to some tones. If you want to hear what the amp sounds like before I got it, you can check out Leon's videos on this amp. He's already featured it in one or two. So let's talk about what I've done to this thing. I'll bring it up here. We've added what I've been calling the kind of OG Jose gain stage, right? So it's just an extra triode gain stage out in front of the normal 1959 super lead. So this pot here allows you to adjust the amount of gain that's coming from that extra gain stage out in front, and it's pushing into both the normal and treble channels of the super lead circuit. So these are jumpered internally, and in fact when I got the amp, the previous tech who had modded this to super lead spec had already done that, so you don't need to use a jumper cable to jump the channels. They are already wired, the two grids are wired together on what was V1 in this amp. It still maintains the way I do this mod. You still have a high and a low input here that are usable. So this input here is now disconnected. In fact, in Leon's amp, both the normal inputs were disconnected in the amp. But what we have here is the high input, this one. The high input brings in the Jose gain stage, and that's what we will listen to in terms of the tones that I've got in this video. And the low input bypasses that extra gain stage and gives you access to essentially a stock 1959 super lead circuit. This amp with reverb, the reverb had already been taken out of this thing, but it does have a reverb pot. So it has 7 pots on the front rather than the normal 6, right? So the reverb pot is now a new master volume. So with the Jose gain stage out front, we now implement a pre-phase inverter master volume. So not post, it's pre-phase inverter. So more like the master volume that you'd see in a Marshall 2203 or 2204 style JMP or JCM 800 amp. So we're going to listen to this thing, and we're going to go to the bench, and I'll give you a big walkthrough of the amp as I received it, and also an overview of the mods that we've implemented it. See you on the next video. So we're going to open this thing up and examine what the current state of it is. I know it's already been modded to some degree. What I don't know is, what that mod actually is. So here it is out of the chassis, guys. Probably hasn't been out for a little while. It's got a reasonable amount of dust on it. Let's have a look at this tag here. Okay, 12th of July 1979. Was the build date. Now Leon did tell me this was a 79, and we do know that these 2959 models were made kind of 79 and into 1980. Maybe only 150 ever made. Let's look at the rear of the amp quickly. this does look like the last one I had in here. It interestingly, this has been replaced. This would have been, the output selector would have been one of these style like this. And I know these output transformers only have a 4 and 8 ohm tap. There's no 16 ohm tap, which is kind of weird, and I don't know why. You'll notice also we do not have a matched set here. So there's an odd JJ EL34L here. So I'm going to put these on my tube tester and see whether or not they're actually matched from a bias perspective. Pot mount PCBs where the PCB is just suspended simply by the pots that are held here. And if I just move this down a bit for the camera, this was the Reverb transformer, and we can see, right, it's been completely disconnected and removed. And V1 here is unused, not connected to the amp at all. So those are the heater wires, right? So it's still got heater wires in it, and funnily enough, it's got a tube in it. It's Fender groove tubes. Okay. So that's heating up and glowing, but not doing anything. Let's see on the fly here, what can I make out about the circuit? So these look okay. So this setup looks like a super lead. 68k grid stoppers on each side. Here we got a 2k7. That's not connected to anything. Okay. 0.68 bypass cap here with, where's its cathode resistor? This one, 2k7. Okay, and that is okay, so that's for this side, V1A. The V1A is 2k7 with 0.68 on the cathode, and it has a 100k plate. So that it's very much like a super lead. I can see that these two input jacks here aren't connected to anything. So here's the 268k grid resistors here, and you'd normally see like a green wire like this one. You'd see it here, and then coming over. So it's disconnected, and I can see this white wire here? This is connecting the grids on both sides of V1. So this amp is internally jumpered, if you like. You know, like on a super lead, you can put a patch cable in here on the front and jump the channels. Well, this has it hardwired in. Not exactly the same way, but this is a very kind of clever. Well, it's not clever. It's an effective technique of doing it. And then you can just blend as your heart's content. You don't need to use a patch cable. So the cathode setup for this side, so we know it's 2k7.68 here with a 100k plate, and here's our other 100k plate resistor, and the cathode setup for this is over here. It's an 820 ohm with a 220 microfarad bypass cap. Okay, so this is true to spec for a normal channel. So the plexi, right? You have the treble channel and the normal channel. So this is correct. This setup here is correct for a treble channel, and this setup here is correct for a normal. So V1 is the two parallel stages for a 1959 Super Lead. This amp has actually been set to that. Okay, so far so good. So these are our two volumes here, and the treble channel, it's had its pot replaced. Let me just tip that forward a bit. It's had its pot replaced with a non-PCB mount pot, which is fine. It's kind of how if you were going to do that, that's how you do it. And it has a silver mica bright cap on it. And I'm just going to bend down here and see if I can read the value. Okay, that looks like a 220 picofarad. So here we are with this is kind of the gain stage on V2A, and then the cathode follower V2B. So the cathode setup for this side, V2A, is an 820 ohm resistor with no bypass cap. It's okay. And the plate resistor is this guy right on the socket here in 100k. So that's also, correct specification. We go to the cathode follower. The plate for the cathode follower has no plate resistor. It's straight off the B plus supply, and that is correct. And this yellow wire is the cathode setup for this triode. And we'd expect to see 100k resistor to ground, and there it is right there. And that's correct. And then from there, so this is a plate-fed tone stack. In the stock amp, this has been converted into a cathode follower driven tone stack. Okay, so Leon, talking to you, dude. I don't know whether you knew that, but this amp is already has a cathode follower driven tone stack, which is pretty interesting. And here's like the beginning of the tone stack. So this is the treble cap here, and that's our slope resistor. It's a 33k resistor, and this will be 470, 500 picofarad treble cap. I'll check all these values very closely, but they all look actually stock. This is all kind of stock stuff, and it's a standard 33k slope tone stack in this amp. Standard Marshall phase inverter here. We've got 220k bias splitter resistors. That's all, all untouched, all factory correct. And these mustard caps here are not factory. They would have been an upgrade. They are 0.1. So this amp has 0.1 couplers, which is you'd normally only see in a super bass and a 100 watt amp. You do see 0.1s in a 50 watt lead spec amps, but you don't really see 0.1s in my experience in 100 watt super leads. So that's pretty interesting. These resistors here, what the hell are they doing? Okay, this one here is a 5 watt 1 ohm cement resistor, which is on the cathode. This is, you put 1 ohm resistor in here so you can measure the bias current using a multimeter in millivolt reading. You don't need a 5 watt resistor for that. That's just kind of pretty ridiculous, overkill. What the hell are these 10 watt 100 ohm resistors for? So wow, okay. So this one underneath is 100 ohm resistor. This is connected to the cathode of this. Both of these tubes actually. And this one's not connected to anything by the look of it. So bizarrely, the cathodes on these two power tubes are going to ground via a 100 ohm 10 watt cement resistor, and the cathodes on this side are going to ground via a 1 ohm 5 watt resistor. This is all nonsense. It's all going to come out. All right, Leon, mate, I've got your tubes here on the Maxi Matcher tester. Now, I will say before I go through this, I powered the amp up and listened to it at idle, just coming through my speaker cabinet here in the workshop, and dude, it's got a terrible fucking hum. Should not be humming like that, like 100 hertz. And one of the causes of that is a mismatched quad, or a mismatched pair. And so if I go through here and you look at this, this is the bias current. This is for tube 1. Okay, 24.5, 24.8, 24. Well, let's call it 23 point. Anyway, they are perfectly matched. Go to the JJ, 40. That's so far out, dude. So far. So whoever put this in the amp had no idea what they were doing. They just grabbed the tube and threw it in. Bad. Okay, so let's go through Leon's amazing amp. 100 watt Marshall. We've used this side of this unused preamp tube here, right? So it had, when I showed it in the video, it had this old Fender groove tube. So this tube was dead. So when I completed all this this mod, turned the amp on, couldn't get a sound out of it. Found it pretty quickly. So we've got a brand new preamp tube in here, and we're just using one triode on here, right? And this is our gain stage in front. So we still have the plexi, we still have the high treble channel and the normal channel here, and this gain stage is pushing into the front of both of those. Okay, and so from the output from this triode here, we're heading into this gain pot. So this allows you to adjust how much gain is coming from that first stage and pushing into the front of the plexi. This is, if you want to kind of get into the guts of what this mod is, I outline it in a video called OG Jose Mod 9059 hand wired. I think I did it too. I'll put a link in this video to that video, so I won't have to go through all the detail of this, because this is essentially the same. Okay. The key with modding any kind of board like this, we've got a printed circuit board. Now, you've got to figure out a way of kind of implementing the circuit. I guess some of the work that went into this was figuring out how to do that exactly. So for example, this 220k resistor here is actually the plate resistor for this triode, and the cathode for this triode is way over here, right? But electrically it's fine. I mean, the circuit is still exactly how you would want it. So we've added a 4700 picofarad bright cap on the treble channel, which is essential, I believe, for that real 9059 super lead sound, and worked great. When you've got this gain stage in front, you can really use this to tighten up the bottom end just by pulling this volume back. You're not reducing gain really, you're just pulling out the bottom end out of the preamp, and it really helps to tighten the amp up. I replaced the bias filter caps, bias supply filter caps as well. So while you got the board out like that, they were original factory, and so therefore very old, and it's just worth doing while you've got the board out. I had to adjust the bias supply. So I see there's a lot of amps. A new set of power tubes had gone into this amp at some point. The tech had tried to bias it. He had the pot all the way up, but it was still only drawing 20 milliamps at idle, and I'm looking for 30, 33, somewhere around there at this plate voltage of 450 volts. So I just paralleled a 220k resistor over the top of the factory resistor there to do that. And you can see in here, this is our new master volume. So, again, this is kind of the art of figuring out how to make your circuit work inside the existing printed circuit board. But we're coming in here off the treble wiper into the input of this master volume. It's a 1 meg audio pot, and from the wiper of this pot, we're coming back onto the board, and this is actually a track that links to this side of this cap here, which is the input into the phase inverter.